Hey there, fellow Rocketeers. Let's talk about the single greatest Estes rocket of all time. The Starship Vega and the Super Vega, right? So, a little bit of history here, and don't quote me on this stuff because I'm going from memory, right? But if y'all are fans of Estes and you've been around a while, you might recognize this fine feller, the Starship Vega. Right there. Kind of hard to see with the glare. But anyway, yeah, the Starship Vega. So this thing first came out, as it says, 1971. It was only available, I think, for a year or two, maybe 72 or 73, right? And I wouldn't have known about it because I was just a punky kid at that time. I would have been maybe, 7, 8 years old or so, right? Then Estes brought it back in 1979, and it was available, I think, for a couple of years. And these were my prime model rocketing years as a teenager. So I would have seen it in 1980, 1981, 82. I flew my first Estes model rocket in January of 1978, I think it was, a WAC Corporal. And yeah, I would have seen this and thought this is pretty cool, but if this was the original size, that's likely why I did not buy this one at that time, right? I thought it was cool, but too small. Even for me as a punky kid of, 13, 14 years old, that's just too small. So it wouldn't be until 1990 when Estes would come out with the Super Vega. Oh, look at that thing. So this one is probably one, it's quite possible this is one from that first release of the Super Vega in the 1990s, but hard to say, right? Hard to say. There's a difference here, of course, in this decal, the red decal, as opposed to the silver wraparound. I don't know the history or story on that, right? But yeah, 1990 for this one, and I think it was available for a few years. But crazy story. All I remember is that to get another Super Vega for me would be 1996, 1997, somewhere in there. I'm up in Bellingham, Washington, working, and I've got a little time to kill. And I did a little research and found that there was a hobby store not far from me, right? So I went to that hobby store with high expectations, and they had 3 walls of model rockets, and I was incredibly excited when I saw that initially, right? And then I started going through them, and there wasn't anything in there that I wanted. They might have had a Super Big Bertha or Maxi Alpha 3, but they didn't have the Phoenix. They didn't have a Super Vega. There was nothing that I was really looking for. So I left that hobby shop a little disappointed, and I saw a thrift store either right next door or across the street, and I went in there with no expectations, but I see they've got some toys just as you come in, right? I take a right turn, and there's nothing but empty shelves, but what's sitting on that shelf? 3 boxed, brand new Super Vegas. I think I stood there in stunned silence for several seconds before my arm shot out and grabbed, believe it or not, one of the 3. It was $30. And again, this would have been about 1996, 1997. Like, what was I thinking? Like, why didn't I just grab all 3 of those and just go right to the counter and get out of there? So yeah, I bought one of those. And then, of course, after getting home, which was back, south of Seattle, I would come to my senses and go, what were you thinking? I got to get back up there and buy the other 2, right? So by the time I got back up there to that thrift shop, days later, one was gone and there was one more there. So I was able to buy the other one, or one other of the 3. And I don't know which one this really is. I think this is the first one that I bought and built. And in fact, I might have sold the second one, because after I built this and flew it, some years later, it would have been probably after 2009, Q Modeling came along and made this Retro Mega Series Model Vega. And what they did, Q Modeling, with this rocket is they added, to me, all the things that you would want in the Super Vega, but didn't have. You know, it was a stronger build, and they added springs in the pods, right? Which is wonderful. I remember building this back in the day and thinking, man, I wish that these were spring-loaded, right? But didn't think of it when I was building it. So along comes Q Modeling, and kabam, we got spring-loaded pods. How sweet is that? And not to digress too far into this Q Modeling history, but this Q Modeling version I built, and then I didn't have it painted or decaled or anything, and I launched it, and it came down and crashed. It broke these cones, and I had to email them, and they sent me replacements. I built it, painted it, decaled it, launched it again, and it came down just fine. But one thing that did happen, as you can see, is one of the rings inside the pod has clearly come loose. So now this one is just leaning down. And I haven't tried to fix it. I'm just leaving it alone. This guy is retired because what I have now is Bad Boy Rocketry's upgraded Super Vega. And so what I'm doing is, you know, in this Bad Boy Rocketry version, they have the pods, yes, right? But I had my old Q Modeling instructions, and I went to, I think, Tacoma Screw, and I found this spring, right? And I said, you know what? I could now have the single greatest version of my favorite rocket around, because it's got through-the-wall plywood fins here. So that's fantastic and important, right? Then it's got plywood fins elsewhere. Then we're going to have the spring-loaded pods. We're going to have a Mylar sleeve inside there, and the shock cord with Kevlar down to the motor mount and out, right? Check that out. How great is that? So there's our spring-loaded pod. Put that in there. And then I've got a top piece, and there you go. We got spring-loaded pods. Fantastic. So that is the build that I am on now. And I will film more of this as we go. This is next. I'm going to get these in place here next. And then we'll get the pods on, the spring-loaded pods. We'll get the upper fins on. And by golly, we'll be on our way. So I hope to have this ready to launch. I hope to have this ready to launch in the spring. I'm putting this build on, I wanted to say it's the Rocketry Forum. I think that's what it's called, the Rocketry Forum. So look for D Setter on the Rocketry Forum, and you can follow along with this awesome, to me, ultra super Vega build from Bad Boy Rocketry, and a little bit of technical addition from Q Modeling, who I believe are no longer in business. I also have Q Modeling's USS Andromeda, probably my second favorite fantasy sci-fi rocket that's out there, right? So that's it, a little Super Vega info for you there. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you are getting the rockets that you want to fly next spring ready now. Winter is a great time to build for us here in the States. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. AC Rockets, more great stuff to come. Put any thoughts, comments down below. I really appreciate you following along, and we'll catch you on the next video.